Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into the world of data breaches and specifically focusing on how things work in Spain.
Sounds interesting.
Right, and to help us out, we've got a fascinating guide from a Spanish law firm.
Okay.
The name is a bit of a tongue twister, though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's MCHM Abogados.
Wow. Okay. So data breaches, huh? I think most people probably think that's something only big companies need to worry about.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But the truth is, in today's world, I mean, we're constantly sharing information online, so understanding your rights and what companies are obligated to do is actually crucial for everyone.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay.
What is a data breach, really? What happens if your data is compromised? And how are companies in Spain held accountable under the law?
You're absolutely right. Data breaches really do affect everyone, and you'd be surprised by how broadly a data breach is defined. It's not just about, hackers stealing passwords. We're talking about any situation where personal data is destroyed, lost, altered, or accessed without authorization. Even accidental disclosure counts.
Wow, so that's a much wider scope than I initially imagined. I mean, it makes you realize just how vulnerable our data can be.
For sure.
Like imagine if your physical address got leaked online or someone gained access to your medical records.
Right.
That's scary stuff.
It is, and that's where the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, comes in.
Oh, yeah, the GDPR, we hear about that all the time.
It sets a really high bar for data protection across Europe, including Spain, and this regulation has really changed the game. When it comes to how organizations handle personal data and what they need to do in case of a breach.
So the GDPR basically sets the rules of the road for data protection in Spain.
Yep, you could say that.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, one of the key aspects of the GDPR is the 72-hour notification window.
72 hours.
Yes. If a company in Spain suffers a data breach, they have to report it to the AEPD.
The AEPD?
Yeah, Spain's Data Protection Agency. And they have to do it within 72 hours of becoming aware of the breach.
72 hours. It doesn't seem like much time to, investigate and contain a breach, especially if it's a complex one.
Yeah, it's a tight deadline, that's for sure. It puts a lot of pressure on companies to act quickly.
Right.
But it underscores how seriously data breaches are being taken by regulators.
I see.
But reporting is only the first step.
Okay.
Our source material, the guide from MCHM Abogados, lays out a 6-step framework.
6 steps.
Yes, that companies in Spain must follow.
Got it. So what are the 6 steps?
Okay, so it starts with detection, then internal notification, AEPD notification, communication to affected individuals, corrective measures, and documentation.
Okay, so it's a pretty involved process.
It is.
What I find reassuring is that they can't just, sweep a data breach under the rug.
Yeah.
They have to inform the affected individuals.
Absolutely. Transparency is really key to the GDPR.
Makes sense.
But it's important to note that the level of communication required really depends on the nature of the breach.
Okay.
The regulations distinguish between general breaches and what are classified as high risk.
High risk?
Yes.
What kind of situations would fall under that?
Well, a high-risk breach is basically one that poses a serious threat to an individual's rights and freedoms.
I see.
Imagine scenarios like financial data being stolen and used for identity theft or sensitive medical information being leaked publicly.
Yeah, that's bad.
In these cases, the company has to inform those affected without delay.
Makes sense, so they can take steps to protect themselves.
Exactly.
So it's not just about knowing that a breach happened. It's about understanding the potential impact on your life and taking action accordingly.
That's right. And this is where firms like MCHM Abogados play a crucial role.
I see.
They help companies navigate the complexities of the GDPR, not only to ensure compliance, but also to put effective data protection measures into place.
So they're like guides through this whole legal landscape.
Exactly. They're helping companies do the right thing.
Okay.
Both legally and ethically.
When it comes to handling sensitive data.
Precisely. And for you, the listener, understanding these regulations and the steps companies are obligated to take, well, it gives you a sense of empowerment. It's about knowing your rights and being able to hold companies accountable.
So it's like having a roadmap to navigate this sometimes confusing world of data protection.
Exactly.
But hold on, before we go any further, let's take a quick pause.
That sounds good.
We'll be back in a flash to explore what you can do to proactively protect your own data.
Okay, I'll be here.
And we're back, ready to get practical. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the legal stuff and technical details.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, what can one person actually do to protect their data, in this massive digital world?
That's a really great question. And the good news is that you have way more power than you think. Just like companies have a responsibility to protect your data, you also have a responsibility to be proactive.
Okay, I like that. I'm ready to level up my data protection game. So what can I do? What are some things I can start doing today?
All right, well, first think of yourself as a gatekeeper of your own information. Be mindful of what you share online and who you share it with. It's tempting to just click agree on all those app permissions without reading them.
Oh, yeah, definitely guilty of that.
But taking a few extra seconds to think about what data you're giving away can really make a huge difference.
Yeah, true.
Like, do you really need that fitness tracker app to access your contacts or your location?
That's a good point.
Convenience often comes at a cost, especially when it comes to data privacy.
Okay, so be mindful. What else?
Another essential step is creating strong, unique passwords for all of your online accounts.
Got it.
Using the same password for multiple platforms is basically like leaving all your doors unlocked with the same key.
Yikes. Recipe for disaster.
Exactly. Strong passwords are a must.
Okay, but what about all those cases where we hear about data breaches even when companies do have those strong security measures in place?
Right.
Is there anything else we can do?
Absolutely. That's where two-factor authentication comes in.
Two-factor authentication.
Yeah, it's like an extra layer of protection for your accounts.
Okay.
Even if someone gets your password, they won't be able to access your account without that second factor.
I see.
Which is usually a code sent to your phone or email.
Okay, so two-factor authentication, another good idea. I'm writing all this down.
Perfect.
But what about all the emails and messages we get every day? How can you tell which ones are legit and which ones are like scams trying to steal your data?
That's a crucial skill these days. Be wary of clicking on links or opening attachments from senders you don't know.
Okay.
They could be phishing attempts.
Oh, yeah.
Disguised as something legitimate if something feels off or too good to be true. Just trust your gut and delete it.
Better safe than sorry.
So be mindful. Create strong passwords. Use two-factor authentication. Watch out for suspicious emails. Okay, there's already a lot to remember.
It is, but there's more.
Oh, there's more. Okay, go on.
One often overlooked step is keeping your software and operating systems up to date.
Oh, right, the updates.
Updates often include security patches
Okay.
that fix vulnerabilities that hackers could use to get in. It's like regularly checking your armor for holes and patching them up before someone can take advantage.
That's a good analogy. So it's all about forming good digital habits and being aware of the risks.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about individual responsibility. It's
Right.
also about holding companies accountable.
Yeah.
Remember that 72-hour reporting rule we talked about? It really forces organizations to act fast in case of a breach.
Yeah, they have to.
They can't mess around. They have to have solid procedures in place to detect, contain, and report these incidents quickly because every minute counts when it comes to limiting the damage.
It's a race against time, right?
And I like that companies are required to document everything.
Yeah.
It keeps things transparent, accountable.
For sure. They can't sweep anything under the rug anymore.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of, responsibility and respect for people's data.
Right.
Both within companies and in society as a whole.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to how individual action, corporate responsibility, and the legal framework all play a part.
They all connect.
Yeah. But it makes me wonder, where does this all fit into the bigger conversation about data privacy and digital rights? It feels like we're at a turning point in how we think about our data.
That's a really good observation, and it's definitely something we should talk more about.
Okay.
We're seeing a huge shift.
Yeah.
Where data privacy is no longer this fringe concern.
Right.
It's becoming a fundamental human right.
A human right. Wow, that's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
It makes me think that protecting our data is really just an extension of protecting ourselves. Our identities, our freedoms in this digital world.
Precisely the conversation about data breaches goes way beyond individual incidents. It's about setting standards, demanding accountability, making sure that our fundamental rights are protected online.
Just like they are in the real world.
Exactly. So it's not just about avoiding spam emails or protecting your credit card number.
It's bigger than that.
It's about the future of the internet and how we interact with it.
Wow.
And the GDPR, with its focus on transparency, consent, and individual control, well, it's a big step in the right direction.
It's setting a precedent.
It is.
For how we value and protect personal data.
In the 21st century, it's a blueprint for a more ethical and responsible digital future.
I like that, but I have to admit, sometimes it feels like an uphill battle.
I know what you mean.
You've got these massive tech companies collecting tons of data.
It can feel overwhelming.
It does. It's hard to know how much control we really have.
I understand that feeling. It's easy to feel small compared to those big companies. But remember, the GDPR and regulations like it?
They're giving people more leverage than ever.
Okay.
You have the right to know what data is being collected about you, how it's being used. And you can demand that it be deleted.
Really?
You even have the right to object to profiling and automated decision-making.
Wow.
Which companies use a lot to personalize services and target ads.
I had no idea we had that much power.
You do.
So we're not just passive consumers anymore. We can actually shape the rules.
Exactly. And as more people realize this and use their rights, the balance of power will continue to shift. It's an ongoing process that requires us to be vigilant and take action together. But we're gaining momentum. It's about reclaiming our digital sovereignty.
I love that this has been so insightful.
I'm glad.
I feel much more informed about my rights and what I can do to protect my data.
That's great to hear.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a final thought.
Okay.
We've talked about the legal framework, corporate responsibilities, individual actions.
But at the end of the day, data protection is about more than just rules.
Right.
It's about fostering trust and respect online. It's about a digital world where people feel safe, empowered, and in control of their own information.
Couldn't agree more. Data privacy isn't just a technical issue.
Yeah.
It's a human issue.
It is.
It's about making sure our digital lives respect the values of dignity, autonomy, and respect, just like we do in the offline world.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So as you're online, remember, your data has value. Your privacy matters, and you have a voice.
Your voice matters.
Be informed, be proactive, and help us build a more ethical and responsible digital future. And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We're back for the final part of our deep dive, exploring data breaches and what it all means for you.
It has been quite a journey.
It has. We've gone through that legal maze of the GDPR, figured out what companies have to do to protect your data.
Right.
And even giving you some tips on how to boost your own digital security.
It's all connected.
But now it's time to zoom out a bit, and look at the bigger picture.
It's time to see where this all fits in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, so what's the bigger picture then?
Well, we're in the middle of a huge societal shift in how we think about data privacy. It's not a niche issue anymore.
I can see that.
It's becoming a basic human right in this digital world we live in.
A human right. Wow, that's a powerful way to put it. It makes me think that protecting our data is really about protecting ourselves.
Exactly.
Our identities, our freedoms in this digital age.
That's it. The conversation around data breaches goes way beyond those individual incidents.
Right.
It's about setting standards, demanding accountability, and making sure our fundamental rights are protected online.
Just like they are in the real world?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, dodging those spam emails.
Oh, yeah, or protecting our credit cards.
It's much bigger than that. We're talking about the future of the internet, how we interact with it, how we shape it, and the GDPR with its focus on transparency, consent, and individual control. That's a big step in the right direction. It's setting a precedent for how we value and protect data in the 21st century.
So it's a blueprint for a more ethical and responsible digital world.
Exactly. A world where we have more control.
That's good to hear. But I have to admit, it can feel like an uphill battle sometimes.
I understand.
You've got these tech giants collecting massive amounts of data. It's hard to know how much control we actually have as individuals.
I know what you mean. It's easy to feel dwarfed by the scale of it all. But remember, the GDPR and those similar regulations, they're giving individuals more power than ever before.
Okay.
You have the right to know what data they're collecting about you, how they're using it,
right.
And you can actually demand that they delete it.
Really?
Yes. And you even have the right to object to profiling and automated decision-making.
What's that?
That's what companies use to personalize services and target you with ads.
I had no idea we had that kind of power. So it sounds like we're not just passive consumers anymore.
Exactly. You're not passive. You can shape the rules of the game.
I like that. And as more people realize this and start exercising their rights,
yes,
it seems like that balance of power will shift.
That's the goal. It's an ongoing process. It requires us to stay vigilant and work together, but the momentum is building. It's all about reclaiming our digital sovereignty.
That's a great way to put it. This deep dive has been so insightful.
Glad to hear it.
I feel like I understand my rights so much better now, and I know what steps I can take to protect my data.
That's what we want.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought.
Yeah.
We've talked about the legal stuff, the corporate side of things, individual actions.
Yes.
But in the end, data protection is about more than just rules and regulations.
I agree.
It's about building trust and respect online.
Yeah.
It's about creating a digital world where people feel safe, empowered, and in control of their information.
Well said. That's the heart of it. Data privacy isn't just a technical issue.
It's a human issue.
Exactly. It's about making sure our digital lives are based on the same values of dignity, autonomy, and respect that we hold in the real world.
Perfectly said. So, as you navigate the online world, just remember that your data has value. Your privacy matters, and your voice has power.
That's right.
Be informed, be proactive, and be a part of creating a more ethical and responsible digital future. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.